First of all, the A51 5G is light, really light. Samsung has always done a good job of building featherweight phones that still feel well made, and the A51 5G is proof of that. Its 6.5-inch display is nearly 2 inches larger than the 4.7-inch panel inside the Apple's new iPhone SE. The A51 5G's display is flat, which is actually a breath of fresh air from the curved panels in every modern premium handset. It's hard to put my finger on, but a flat screen simply feels simpler to use and easier to live with. The A51 5G is attractive with its upper slim bezels and a display that perfectly follows the silhouette of the body. But it gets better, the A51 has a headphone jack. One of the best things about the last year's Galaxy A50 was its AMOLED display, which is a luxury typically reserved for more premium devices. Rather than use a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor, the A51 5G comes with an in-display optical scanner that works well most of the time. Rather than using one of Qualcomm's mid-range 600 or 700 series chipset, the Galaxy A51 5G derives its power from Samsung's own Exynos 980 CPU. It is supported by 6 or 8 GB of RAM depending on the variant. The Exynos 980 is an 8nm processor. The A51 5G excels at games. For a budget handset anyway, you can play most of the popular games without any problem. You might expect 1 or 2 cameras from this phone, but the Galaxy A51 5G has 4 on the back. A 48MP wide-angle primary shooter supported by 12MP ultra-wide, 5MP depth and 5MP macro optics. A 32MP sensor serves selfie duties on the front. That's a whole lot of megapixels, and when conditions are favorable, the A51 5G can pull in lot of detail. We like the A51 5G's depth effects. That ultra-wide shooter shines when the sun is out. There is a surprising level of detail overall in Samsung's shot and good dynamic range as you move from the shadows to daylight. So what about the night shots? Well, you would think the A51 5G would be better equipped for such scenarios because it has a night mode, something Apple's cheapest iPhone lacks. As we discovered, it's not very useful. In complete darkness, the shot it captures are totally unacceptable. You can record 4K video at 30fps. Pictures taken with selfie camera delivers stunning quality with great color accuracy and dynamic range. Samsung has used 4500 mAh battery into the Galaxy A51 5G. That big battery plus the A51's hardware being optimized more for efficiency than all-out power should guarantee exceptional battery life. This device also supports 15W fast charging. The Galaxy S71 5G brings an excellent amount of upgrades over its predecessor. This device is a pleasure to hold and use. The display is a 6.7-inch AMOLED panel. The display is beautiful as well. All the AMOLED awesomeness is present, such as vivid colors with the option to switch to a more natural look, deep blacks, wide viewing angles and excellent brightness levels. Thanks to the Infinity O screen, the bezels have been reduced and the punch hole for the front camera looks better than the U-shaped camera cutout we saw on the Galaxy S70's display. The A71 5G is sleek and light. There's plastic on the back, but the phone feels premium while not being slippery as a phone with a glass back. The in-display optical fingerprint sensor has been improved as well. It's much quicker and more accurate than last year, even more so than theoretically superior ultrasonic in-display sensor on Samsung's flagships. Naturally, facial recognition is supported and it works well most of the time. It is powered by Exynos 980 chipset coupled with 6 or 8 GB of RAM depending on the variant you buy. Performance in day-to-day use is excellent. There's barely any stutter or lag, and all of the graphically intensive gaming titles run well. This phone have quad rear camera setup. The Galaxy S71 5G 64MP primary camera takes 16MP photos using pixel binning, and when the lighting is right, you get really beautiful pictures. There's a lot of detail in daylight shots and good dynamic range. Color reproduction is also faithful to real life in most cases. Nighttime shots come out noisy or grainy, although the dedicated night mode tends to focus on increasing the detail in dark objects rather than controlling noise levels. The 12MP ultra-wide camera takes better photos than the A70 was capable of, at least in terms of the detail captured. The A71 also has a 5MP macro camera, which is a great addition to this setup, and the last one is 5MP depth sensor. You can record 4K video at 30fps and 1080p super slow-mo video at 960fps. On the front there is a single 32MP camera for selfies, which delivers great picture quality. It is powered by a 4500 mAh battery with 25W fast charging support. It has impressive battery life and can get you up to 2 days on a single charge with light usage on Wi-Fi and a little mobile data, and a full day if you are a heavy user who tends to play games, watch YouTube videos and do other power-intensive things on their phone. If you travel a lot, the A71 has excellent endurance even when used as a hotspot. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus has a 6.7-inch screen. You are also getting a 120Hz refresh rate, which means the display updates the image you are seeing 120 times per second, twice as fast as a typical phone screen. Since the display is curved display, it felt great in the hand. The phone is big but not huge. Depending on where you live in the world, the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus either comes with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 or Samsung's own Exynos 990 processor coupled with 12GB of RAM and 512GB of storage option. You are getting 4 rear cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus. The main camera here has a 12MP sensor with a 1.8 aperture. That being said, the sensor size of the S20's main camera is actually a bit bigger, so its likely image quality will be better. There's also an ultra-wide camera with a 12MP lens and a 2.2 aperture, and ultra-wide pictures looked great. Forget the S10's 12MP telephoto camera, the S20 has a 64MP snapper with a telephoto lens that facilitates 3x optical zoom as well as 30x digital zoom. While this isn't the greatest zoom capability ever, it's still very versatile and allows you to close distances and still take great shots. On the front you will find a 10MP selfie camera, the same as on the Galaxy S10 and Note 10 phones, and it's a great camera. Detail, color and lighting were all on point in selfies, and the live focus mode, which lets you add background blur and color effects, is pretty accurate. In general, the pictures taken with the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus looks very good thanks to Samsung's fantastic post-processing and scene optimization software, which uses AI to improve your snaps. 8K video capture is now available too. There are few new video capture modes too, including Pro Video, which is similar to Pro Photo mode and lets you adjust settings such as aperture, ISO and white balance while shooting clips. This smartphone has a 4500 mAh battery. In terms of charging, there's a 25W fast charging via USB Type-C and 15W fast wireless charging support. The screen tech is impressive and the zoom lens promises to be great for long distance photography. If you already own the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus or a similarly recent flagship device, you can skip this phone for now. It seems that Samsung has saved its coolest feature for the S20 Ultra. The Galaxy S20 Ultra is Samsung's biggest Android phone and it lives up to its name. It is the first Samsung phone with a 120Hz display, which is designed to deliver smoother motion when you are scrolling and especially playing games. You can also toggle between 60Hz and 120Hz in settings, which will come in handy if you want to save battery life. Samsung's 6.9-inch display will push the boundaries of your finger's reach, but it won't feel much bigger than the S10 Plus. Its width is actually a little smaller than the 6.8-inch Note 10 Plus and 6.7-inch Galaxy S10 5G. It's just that the Galaxy S20 Ultra is noticeably taller, not wider, expanding to a 20:9 aspect ratio. You can still grip it with one hand and shove it in a deep enough jeans pocket. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra is made of glass and aluminium and it is protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 6. The specs of this smartphone rival the likes of laptops, meaning it's more than you will ever need. The internal specs are all top of the line, a 7nm chipset, Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 in the US or Samsung's Exynos 990 in the UK and Europe, 16GB of RAM, 512GB of internal storage and a microSD card slot for expandable storage. The app's performance are silky smooth. The S20 Ultra isn't a pure gaming phone, but it matches the Asus ROG Phone 2 and Razer Phone 2 with a silky smooth 120Hz refresh rate. The S20 Ultra has a 108MP 1.8 aperture main camera, a 48MP 3.5 aperture telephoto camera and a 12MP 2.2 aperture ultra-wide camera. There's also a time of flight depth camera on the back aiding portrait photos and 3D scans, and a 40MP selfie camera on the front. It's Samsung's biggest camera sensor upgrade since the Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge. The main 108MP camera delivers great quality pictures with stunning details. The camera performed well in almost every light condition. The telephoto lens is capable of 10x lossless zoom and a crazy 100x space zoom. Pictures from the selfie camera delivers great dynamic range and quality. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra camera introduces 8K resolution video recording and steady stabilization. 8K is going to allow you to crop and edit video without sacrificing quality, while the 4K will give you more frame rate and zoom options. Samsung super fast charging returns on the S20 Ultra, up to 45 watt with an optional charger and 25 watt with the charger included in the box. It also supports 15 watt fast wireless charging. Samsung equipped this phone with a massive 5000 mAh battery, which is the biggest in a Galaxy S series device. Samsung Galaxy S20 has a lot of potential. Samsung promised something amazing will happen in 2020, and here it is. This smartphone sports a big 6.4-inch displays with water drop notch, which Samsung calls Infinity U displays. The bezels aren't thin but are acceptable for the price. Just like with other M series smartphones, Samsung has used plastic in the construction of the Galaxy M31. The earpiece is sleek and it sits right above the display in the frame of the smartphone. The Galaxy M31 feels comfortable to hold in the hand. The sides are slightly curved, which helps with grip. Samsung has positioned the power and volume buttons on the right of the device. The Galaxy M31 has a 3.5mm headphone jack, primary microphone, USB Type-C port, and a speaker at the bottom. Samsung has retained the Exynos 9611 chipset from the Galaxy M30s. This is an octa-core processor with great performance. For graphics, it has the Mali G72 GPU. You get 6GB of RAM and a choice between a 64GB storage variant and a 128GB of storage variant. The device is fairly quick to load up apps, however big apps do take slightly longer. Since there is plenty of RAM, multitasking is very easy. The Galaxy M31 sports a quad camera setup at the back and a single 32MP selfie shooter. The primary camera on the Galaxy M31 has a 64MP resolution and 1.8 aperture. There's also an 8MP ultra-wide-angle camera with a 120-degree field of view. The other two are 5MP depth sensor and a 5MP macro camera. Samsung's camera app is the same as before. Photos turned out well and have decent details. The smartphone enables HDR automatically if required. Switching to the wide-angle camera is easy and you can get a wider field of view. This phone is capable of separating subjects and backgrounds when shooting close-ups. Photos taken in low light looked good. Rear camera can record 4K video at 30fps. There is a single 32MP camera on the front. Selfies taken with the Galaxy M31 were decent when shot with sufficient lighting around. The front delivers good quality pictures all around. You can also record 4K video with the front camera. M31 packs in a big 6000 mAh battery with 15 watt fast charging support.